Our speaker,
Christina,
has come to share her experience, strength, and hope with us in the specific area of the BDA toolkit and the 12 steps of DA. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Christina. I'm a business owner, a debtor, and an under-earner. And I first want to thank Kevin. Thank you so much for asking me to come out and speak this morning. And I want to welcome the newcomers. And I just want to say, first off, for me, this is a spiritual program. This is a money program, but my experience here has been absolutely about having a spiritual experience, which is not... Oh, you can't hear me. Okay, I'll speak into the mic. Is that better? Okay, I was saying my experience here has been spiritual. And I came in here about money. So with that, I feel nervous because this means so much to me, honestly. Okay, so I'll kind of start where it all started. I'm from Los Angeles. I grew up in the Valley. I'm a Valley girl. And my parents were, my father's from Texas and my mother is from Seattle, Washington. And they both came here to LA I don't know. I think I don't know. Anyways, they fell into the entertainment industry, and my father literally just rolled into town. He was incredibly handsome, kind of combination between like Steve McQueen and Paul Newman. Got a contract at Universal, and then. Just started working right away and signed with a major agency, and that was his story. And then my mother was a model, and she worked in Vegas. They used to do like sort of modeling in Vegas, believe it or not, back in the 50s, and then she did like tea room modeling and things like that. So their experience coming to LA was sort of very exterior. They were sort of, they got a lot of praise for the outsides. So they started, having kids and stuff, and basically were just absolutely winging it. They had no tools, and they also, they had alcoholism and drug addiction and other stuff going on that was, complicated to growing up. And I don't blame any of that today. But that's just kind of where it all started. I have two brothers. I have an older brother who's a half-brother. And then I have a brother who's 3 years old. My older brother's a lot older. And then I have a brother who's 3 years older. And he and I were both born here. So growing up in the Valley, the money thing was always wacky. We would get evicted a lot. Again, my parents were like, by this time, sort of hippies. They were like really attractive hippies. And they were always like, they were very rebellious and they were very immature. And so they didn't want to pay rent, or they didn't have the money, so they just like, let's split, and we would like leave and then like be mad at the landlord. It was like this weird resentment. So there was this theme of like leaving in a huff, like leaving was like, kind of thing. So that kind of became a theme. My mother drove a Jaguar, but we were on food stamps, and I remember, so it was just like kind of confusing. And my parents separated, and when I was 9, and then my brother and my dad lived with themselves, and I went with my mother, and then my mother went back to school, and she got a career in film and television behind the scenes, but then she just wasn't around. Like, it was kind of like everyone was gone. So what happened was that I just was alone a lot. And with that, I was kind of always trying to entertain myself, and I loved the entertainment world. So I was kind of in my own little world. I would put on shows, I'd write plays, I was just kind of that kid. And then, wow, okay. So the message, though, that I got was that creativity was something that, maybe it was a gift, maybe you got paid for it, maybe you didn't. For the most part, it wasn't about having an education or anything like that. So my brother was an athlete, and so there was money, kind of put aside for him, but he also got a scholarship to go to college, and I was just never going to go to college because I was an entertainer kind of person. I did some commercials when I was a kid, and I loved acting. I loved putting on plays. I loved that whole world. Oh, God. All right. So what ended up happening is that I kind of got derailed into a bit of other stuff that I'm in another program for a while. So that kind of took over a lot of my teenage years, pretty unconscious. But when I was about 17, I got an opportunity to act again, actually in a film. And I took that opportunity and I ran with it, and it was fantastic, and I said, this is it. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I got paid for it. So I was like, this is amazing. And ironically enough, that film that was made back in the 80s, like, just screened last night. So I went to the screening of it, and it was like, wow. It was like so bizarre to see your, like, teenage self. So all that said, filmmaking and that whole world I really, really, really loved, and just wanted to keep doing that for the rest of my life. But that's not what happened for a while. But what ended up happening is I moved to New York City, and I wanted to, like, really do this thing, and I didn't have a plan. Like, I just never had a plan. So, but what did end up happening is I got recovery in the beverage program, and then things started changing. I started being able to be present and pursuing that career in a different way, but it didn't, it was tricky. It's not easy. So that said, I kind of carried on with the stuff that I kind of knew, which was like, I didn't pay my rent, but I would put on a play. Or what got me, I came to DA originally in like the late 90s because I hadn't paid my rent in 6 months. And then I made my first short film, and it was because we shot it on film back in those days, and it was in a vault in Burbank, in a place called Photocam, and basically it wasn't like putting on a play, like they really wanted their money, because I could see the footage. I was a little manipulative too back then, and so I was, I always kind of was able to kind of finesse and finagle and whatever, but they were not, the steel doors were like, eh. So that's what brought me here the first time. And I came to DA, I think it was like 97, and I was here for about 12 years. And I worked a very, very strong DA program. My life changed incredibly. I met a man that I would then marry. We did it all the DA way. We had our pressure relief groups together. We had our business meetings on Sunday mornings, and we would, reconcile all our money. I started writing, down my numbers, obviously. I had PRGs. I was sponsoring women. I would speak up here. I was in this thing, and it was fantastic. And I got that footage out, and I was like, yay, and I, was like pursuing my career as a filmmaker. And then I wanted to make a feature film, and I couldn't get the money. I wrote a script, I got some attention for it, I couldn't get the money. My marriage wasn't really where I wanted it to be, and not because of anything other than I married him because I was a certain age, and I thought that was what I was supposed to do. He's a really great person. I love him. We're dear friends today. But I knew in my heart through an inventory process that he was not the man I was supposed to be with the rest of my life. So I left my marriage, and then I kind of left DA, and I made a movie. I got a credit card, and, I didn't get that much. I was like $6,000, but, and I made a movie on the weekends for 2.5 years. I worked a day job as a PA. I was working 40 hours a week. I was editing at night. I was shooting on the weekends for 2.5 years. My brother was having some hard times. So he came to live with me, and then our father passed away from alcoholism. And so I finished that film. I was winging it. I had no program financially, and I did. I got a lot of wonderful support, though. I got grants and things like that. But then I traveled with the film, and we won some awards, and that was all fantastic and fine. And then my mother got sick, and then she died. So through this 5-year period, I made this film. Both my parents died. My brother became homeless. I was sort of like the breadwinner, and I wasn't making money. That job ended. That PA job ended, and I hit a bottom. I hit a real deep bottom, and I came back here, and some friends were very lovingly, welcomed me back because I have an ego, and like I said, I was here before, and I kind of did it right, and whatever that means, because that's such a lie. There's no such thing as that. But the point is that I came back here about 17 months ago, and it's been hard. And my ego has been smashed here. I got that yellow book again, which is our inventory process, and I worked the steps. I got a great sponsor. I was willing to earn no matter what, doing anything and everything. I've done anything and everything. I remember last year, but here's the wacky thing too. I kept trying to get like a steady job. I could not get a job to save my life. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? And my sponsor was like, I don't know. And then my grandfather, I don't know, and like the joke is I was trying to get a job at Sur La Table, I had a side business, 2 minutes? Or is that it? 2 minutes left. Okay. I had this 3. Okay, good. All right. So I had this side business cooking for people, and I was supporting myself through that for a while, but then that didn't work anymore. And I just couldn't get any steady work. And it was really, really, really hard. And my sponsor kept saying, you know what? This is a spiritual journey for you. This is not, by some miracle, I would always get enough little something. Friends would give me work, I was very, very fortunate to just be carried the littlest bit just to keep going, But my sponsor kept saying, this is a spiritual journey for you. This is about surrender. And it isn't about giving up our dreams, I'm the queen of I'm all vision, it's like my vision is not a problem. My earning has been a problem. So, I really, I was like, all right, God, whoever that is to you guys too, we all have our version of what a higher power is, it's not me. That's what I know today. And I started getting really grateful for what I did have. And the tools of this program, I've been keeping my numbers, I've been having PRGs, I've been doing PRGs for other people, and just really acting as if, and throwing tantrums. Because it gets scary when, I'm that kind of debtor that goes down to 0. I go to 0. That's been my story. So literally, 2 months ago, out of the blue, I'm talking to someone that I've seen around for a while, and he's like, I have this story, and blah, 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 and I need some help, and, I was like, oh, okay, I'm a screenwriter. And so I got hired to work for this person, and because of this program, I know how to put together a contract. And when I didn't know exactly how to do the contract, I called you guys, and people advised me and gave me suggestions. And I negotiated a rate, which, by the way, all this this time I've been in this drought, I've been saying affirmations, and my sponsor had me write down exactly what I needed to earn, because I knew, because of my numbers, and exactly where I wanted to be, who I wanted to work with, the kind of people, because I have worked a lot of jobs in my life. Believe me, I have been very humbled in a lot of my willingness to earn. But there comes a point in time where it's like I wasn't willing to be around abusive people. I wasn't willing to not be appreciated for what I do bring to the table, whether it's, cooking or writing or acting or directing or whatever I do. So that said, I get this gig with this guy. I've been working for him now, and it's an ongoing thing, and it's been fantastic. And every day he's like, you're so great. I'm so grateful to have you. And I'm just like, thank you, And that's not it. The point is, it's not like, ooh, I got the gig today. And then a lot of things have shifted, and everything's shifted right now, honestly. Like, there's a lot coming in. And I'm very, 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 very grateful. And I'll just wrap up by saying that, we talk about all sorts of things here, cash and prizes and journeys. And for me, like I said before, this is absolutely spiritual. This is all about my surrender to God and my surrender to this process, because I never know what it's supposed to look like, but I've always been taken care of. And I know that the tools here and the support here and the love that I felt in these rooms and continue to, is ongoing, and this is a work in progress. So thank you so much.